All right, whiskey freaks, let's get to the fun part now, my review. And this is going to be an extended discussion because as luck would have it, or maybe serendipity, and for those of you with infinity bottles, that means like a happy little accident. So yeah, I guess it was a kind of a happy little accident how all this went down, and I'm going to explain it all shortly. I got to have a really, well, I'll call it was really meaningful conversation recently with Kyle Lloyd, and he's the Vice President of Operations over at Preservation Distillery in Bardstown. And I'll tell you what, this wasn't your typical PR chat or canned talking points of bullshit. Kyle took the time to actually call me. He called me. And right away, that told me a lot about the way preservation does things. Personal, on a smaller scale, and hands-on. Now, preservation isn't some massive industrial outfit. They're making about 6 barrels a day, guys. That's it. 6 barrels a day. And that's by design. That's how they planned it. That's how they want to do it. And Kyle explained that their approach is slow, deliberate, and focused on craft. Everything they do is small batch. It's typically in 3-barrel batches. It's unfiltered, and it's bottled as close to barrel proof as they can get. He said every release is a showcase of quality over quantity, and you really hear the pride in his voice when he talks about it. It's just an incredible guy. Now, why don't I have this interview recorded, you ask? Some of the other guys, they have people on the... Okay, that's a great question, but it was an impromptu call. It wasn't contrived or set up. This really just kind of happened naturally. So I don't have a Zoom or anything like that. It's just a couple guys who love bourbon having a 45-minute long conversation. And we got to talking about the bottle I'm reviewing this week, Cock of the Walk. You've probably heard of chicken cock and fighting cock, and there may be some other cocks out there, right? This is Cock of the Walk, and it's an 8-year-old wheated bourbon. And Kyle told me something I found really interesting. He said, it's a bold, uncharacteristic wheated bourbon, more spice and smoke than you expect. He said that's intentional. They do a lot of things that are intentional at preservation. This isn't an exception to that rule. They want this bourbon, he said, to live up to its name, to have that boastful, confident character, like a proud rooster or a cock. Now, each lot is numbered, and I am holding in my hot little hands here lot number 2, which to me is amazing because Kyle said this is actually the first lot that they ever sold outside of the distillery walls. So to me, that's pretty cool. Every batch is just a few hundred bottles. So to have this bottle in my hand right now, to me is incredible. And it really is a snapshot in time. Now, the story behind this distillery, and I'm not going to blab on and on and on, but this distillery was started with its founder, Marcy Palatella. Back in the 80s, Marcy was exporting American whiskey to Japan, and she was building relationships with some serious legends. People like Julian Van Winkle and the folks at Willet. And she was one of the first to bottle barrel-strength, unfiltered bourbon for export when that really wasn't even a thing yet. The same philosophy runs through preservation today. They want to keep it pure, keep it real, and let time do the work. Now, Kyle's background is pretty solid too. This guy spent nearly 10 years at Michter's, starting back when they were just getting their brick and mortar setup going, I think back in 2013 or so. And he's actually a chemical engineer by trade. But listen, you'd never guess it talking to the guy. He's down to earth, he's easy to talk to, and he doesn't come off like some lab coat wearing whiskey nerd. We talked about patience. Talked about how people have been chasing rapid aging techniques for 70 years and no one's ever been able to replicate what proper barrel time can do. As he put it, you can push flavors with pressure and temperature, but you end up throwing things out of balance. I couldn't agree more. And what I really liked is the honesty. That kind of honesty, it's really rare in the world, right? And in this industry in particular. And that really grabbed a hold of me. Kyle said, and get this, the difference between success and failure often comes down to humility, respect for the process, and actually building relationships, one store, one bar, one bottle at a time. Let that sink in, guys. And I couldn't agree more, guys, especially in the current climate where bourbon and liquor might be waning or shifting. I think this approach they're taking, it should bode well for the cats at Preservation Distillery. That's just in my humble opinion, right? And you can tell that's exactly what Preservation is doing. Their operation is slow tech, as Kyle calls it. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just traditional methods and good barrels. They use 18-month air-dried wood, alligator charred, in a lower entry point, somewhere around 105, right? He said that the low entry proof point helps pull better flavors from the oak, and he said you can taste that in the depth and richness of their bourbon. Dang, guys, this guy, one more thing he said just hit me upside the head. He said, bourbon creates meaningful moments. It's not just about the bourbon, but the circumstances in which it's enjoyed. And that line really hit home with me. That's why I talk about us being whiskey freaks here on the podcast, right? It's getting together. It's the circumstances. You remember when you get together and you drink a bottle of XYZ bourbon, you remember who you drank it with. You remember what was going on at the time. It's almost like for me, when I hear a song kind of triggers memories for me, right? I think it does that for a lot of folks. And I think getting together and enjoying a pour does the same thing. So what did I take away from this conversation? Well, a lot, honestly. What I've determined is that Preservation isn't just making good bourbon. In my opinion, they're preserving the heart of what bourbon used to be. Patience, craftsmanship, relationships built on trust. Look, in a world of hype bottles and influencer freebies, all that crap you see, these guys are quietly doing things the right way. And that's why you maybe have never heard of Preservation Distillery, right? They need to get the word out, because what they're doing, I believe in what they're doing there. Now, these cats at Preservation believe when you pick up a bottle of Cock of the Walk, you're not just getting an 8-year-old weeded bourbon. You're getting the story of a small team in Bardstown, Kentucky, a founder who's been in the game since the 80s, and a group of folks who still believe that good whiskey takes time. And let me jump back real quick. The reason I'm calling this a happy little accident is what's crazy, really. So we went up to the nearby liquor store. There's a couple of them near us, but this is one of the newer ones. And I just wanted to walk through the aisles and look around, check prices, that kind of thing. Just stroll the bourbon aisle, right? Now, if you remember last October, and you were listening to the podcast, this one, I deemed last October Cocktober. Everything, yeah, I know, cheeky, right? Everything was reviewed that month was in some way associated with a chicken or a cock. So honestly, that was my plan this year. And my wife was like, yeah, that's cool. It was a great idea. Let's do it again this year. So she was full bore about it. And I'm like, great, she's on board. This is cool. So I'm like, let's find some more cock bourbon. All right. Well, needless to say, I lost track of time. I didn't get around to doing Cocktober this year. But okay, back to my story. So we're in this new liquor store, and my wife comes around the corner, down the bourbon aisle, and behold, she hands me this bottle. So today, I'm cracking open lot 2 of Cock of the Walk bourbon whiskey from Preservation Distillery. And we're going to find out together, guys. We're going to find out if what they say, my good friend Kyle Lloyd and the folks at Preservation, if what they say about this bold, unfiltered, weeded bourbon, is it really the Cock of the Walk? Well, let's find out. Now, let me start with the bottle. And overall, I like it. But it's obnoxiously tall. Sorry, Kyle. It does not fit on ye old bourbon shelf. That's my biggest complaint at this point. Up to now, right? And if that's my biggest complaint, that'll be fine, right? I do love the label. It's got this cool label on it. It's like a retro, old-timey, it's like a brown, muted, kind of subdued tones with dark black letters. And it's got this image of think giant, super big chicken vibes. The bottle's made in a really tall, clear glass. So you get a good look at what's inside. And really more so than most other whiskeys. Now, as you know, and I'll mention it here I might mention it later too. Never judge a whiskey by what you see inside the bottle. You always need to pour it into the glass to check it out. But this bottle, believe it or not, it gives you quite a decent look at the liquid inside. So kudos to the guys at Preservation on that. Now at the top of the bottle, it says boldly, Proprietor's Reserve. And the larger lower label says Cock of the Walk Bourbon Whiskey. It also says, and I'm not sure why, but it does, it says aged in wood for perfection. Okay, I mean, we probably figured it was aged in wood. But anyway, at the bottom of the label, it talks about age, virtue, good stuff like that. But it does not have an age statement on the bottle. But the facts, the deets, and well, there aren't a lot of them on this label. The deets are on the small label on the back. It says, bottled by Cock of the Walk Distilling, Bardstown, Kentucky. And this is going to come into play in a minute, so hang with me, guys. And it says the original Cock of the Walk brand since 1991, making premium bourbon and rye whiskey. It does show the proof point. The proof point is handwritten on the bottle in red ink. It is a delightful 112.1 proof, and it also says lot number 2. Now, I'm not trying to jump too far ahead here, guys, but we are talking about, the bottle. So, like I said, my wife hands me this bottle. It's the last one on the shelf. And remember the goal, at least at that point, it's to have Cocktober all over again, right? Okay. Never heard of this stuff before. I've never seen this Cock of the Walk anywhere. And here's the kicker. I actually took a flyer on this one. I bought it. Now remember, I buy my own bourbon. That's point blank. This bottle, this is a $110 bottle of bourbon. So I'm looking around at some of the chicken cocks because they had plenty of chicken cocks there on the shelf at the liquor store. And there were like 3 or 4 of them that I did not review last year. Some of the more interesting ones, right? But some of them were $400. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't want to pay that many American dollars. Not at this point. So I'm thinking this one might fit the bill. So I picked up the Cock of the Walk. So I get it home. And I always do my research. Sometimes I do it in the liquor store, but most of the time I do it when I get home. And that's for a couple of reasons. I don't want to get taken to the cleaners. Also, I want to do my best to give you all the facts, all the things when I review something. And that's where I hit sort of a brick wall, quite frankly. And I mentioned this to Kyle on our call. There's not a lot out there about Cock of the Walk, very little. And I guess that's why, or the reason why I reached out to Preservation Distillery, and lo and behold, the vice president of the company called me back. And I got to tell you, that really meant a lot to me. It's a class act. All right, but enough of my bloviating, right? I want to finish up the details here and get to tasting. So the distillery, like I already said, it's Preservation. The age, now, like I said, there is no age statement on the bottle. It's usually somewhere from between 6 to 8 years old. This one, as Kyle told me, is 8 years old. I mentioned the proof point, 112.1, and that's really about right for these micro batches they do. And these batches they do, like I said, they're 3-barrel batches. They usually come in between 108 and 114 proof. The mash bill. Yeah. Now here's where we got some secrets. Unfortunately, as cool a guy as Kyle came across to me, I got no mash bill for you guys. It's a wheated mash bill, okay? And I suppose that they got to keep some things close to the chest, that some secrets or keep some mystery to it. That drives me crazy, but I'm not going to rip him too bad for that. He was so open and transparent about so many things. Suffice it to say, it is a high wheated mash bill, and I'm guessing it's going to be at least 51% corn with the balance divided between barley and wheat. Probably 15 to 25% of the grain mash consists of wheat. And Kyle, if I'm wrong, let me know. Kyle is not going to let me know. And today I'm tasting with a Glencairn glass, my favorite St. Louis Bourbon Society Glencairn. Alrighty, let me pop this bottle open, guys. It's got a fancy pants cork on top of it, which makes sense if you're paying this kind of money for the darn thing. Get a little bit of this in my glass. All right. Can already smell it. And the color. Always talk about the color. Maybe I focus too much on that. I don't know. But like I always say, you never judge the color in the bottle alone. You got to pour it into a glass to really evaluate it, guys. The color Color sometimes gives you an idea of the breadth of flavors you're about to receive in your mouth. That's my opinion, guys, that the darker the hue of the whiskey in your glass, the deeper the flavors are going to be. That's not always true, but it is sometimes, most of the time. So it is worth noting, and I'm going to tell you about it every single time. Now, the color of this one, let me hold it up to the light here. I've got plenty of light down here. I think the CIA would be very jealous of this setup. It's like a dark copper color. It's very enticing, really. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been fooled before by a rich, dark color like this, but in most cases, you're sure to have strong flavors when you see this type of hue in your glass. And that doesn't mean there'll be good flavors, but the darker the color, it's just usually a good sign anyway. Now, let me nose this thing. And I'm not going to lie, we did talk tasting notes just briefly on our call. So I've kind of got an idea of what I should expect to get here, but really the proof's in the pudding here. So let me give this one a good nosing right now. It's like this rich, smoky caramel, wherever you live, right? And that's right off the bat here, guys. That's very nice. And I should probably mention here, there is almost zero, like none, no alcohol or ethanol here on the nose. Very pleasing up to this point. I'm also getting this kind of nutty note in here too. It's not peanut. It's more like pecan or like pecan shells, if that makes sense. If you've ever gotten pecans in the shell, you know what I'm talking about. And there's some vanilla here too. Yeah, there's a tinge in here of some type of fruit, maybe like a green apple, or I'm kind of thinking it's more like those apples. You know what they serve you at Cracker Barrel, that apple treat that they serve you? That's kind of what I'm getting here on the nose. Every time I take a whiff of this stuff, I'm getting more and more. There's so much going on here. Let me get a sip of this stuff, guys. Let me just see what we got here. I'm doing the Kentucky Chew. Thank you, Booker. This stuff, it just coats the inside of your mouth. It's velvety. It's creamy. So mouthfeel, amazing. It's actually, oh my God, it's actually making my mouth water. It's so good. Let me get another sip. Yeah, it's got this terrific smoky caramel note with this spicy oakiness that just balances it out. And the oak is not some kind of like rough oak. That's how I describe that rough oak flavor. I don't know any other way to say that. It's this smooth, like toasted oakiness, and it melds together really well with that caramel. There's another note in here too. Let me get another sip. Yeah. It's like a candied orange note, maybe like an orange peel. The stuff is so complex. It's just the slightest kind of sweet orange note. And you know, I really smelled some sort of like apple on the nose. I mentioned Cracker Barrel and their dessert. Quite frankly, at this point, I don't get that here. But guys, you got to remember, we're all different. My palate may not be picking it up here, right? Maybe it's there. I mean, maybe you'll taste it, maybe you won't. Listen, we've all been there in a tasting or at a guy's house. One guy will get cinnamon roll, and the other guy will get candied yams, tasting the same damn whiskey that you are. So, like I said, who knows? We're all different, right? I can tell you, this thing does not drink like 112.1 proof. It's much milder than that. Very, very approachable. And I just figured you'd like to know that, guys. It's more like a 100 proofer to me. Let me get one last sip. Okay. The slightest bit of tobacco here on the finish, guys. And just the slightest tinge of mintiness. This thing, I'm not struggling. I'm kind of struggling with it today. This thing is very complex. And What I mean by that is I don't mean complicated, because complicated connotes bad things, right? This is complex. It's playing well together, and that's different than complicated in my mind. Now the finish. I've taken, okay, let me take, okay, I swear it's the last sip here, guys. Let me get one more sip real quick. Yeah, the finish. The mouthfeel, mentioned, that's great. That's amazing. The finish to me is mid. It fades away a little bit faster than I'd like actually for it to do. And I get that. I guess at this point, I'm wanting these flavors to kind of hang around a good while longer. They do to a certain degree. And I guess maybe I'm being selfish here. It is what it is. That's the way I feel about that. So what's the verdict? Well, I'll have the answer right after I tell you about, you guessed it, my new book. It's called Whiskey Wisdom and Bourbon BS, Barrel Strength Legends, Lies, and Untold Tales. Inside the book, you'll find all sorts of crazy whiskey stories about wild distillers, sneaky marketing tricks, booze-fueled inventions, and oddball tales so strange you'll wonder if they're even real. Each chapter ends with one question, guys. Were you reading whiskey wisdom or bourbon bullshit? The answers, they might just shock you guys. It's fun, it's chaotic, and hell, it's cheap. It's just $10 on Kindle over at Amazon, guys. If you don't have a Kindle, that's not a problem. You can use the free Kindle app on any phone or device, or you can read it right on your computer browser. Grab a copy, pour yourself something good, maybe light a cigar, have a few laughs, guys. So yeah, I need you to grab the book, because if I can't show my wife where all this podcast money is going, I'm going to have to start selling some of my bottles. And we all know that's not happening. And guess what? If you read the book, you might, I said you might, just learn something. That's Whiskey Wisdom and Bourbon BS, Barrel Strength, Legends, Lies, and Untold Tales. I've got the link in the show notes, or just head over to Amazon and search it up, guys. So what's the verdict today on this Cock of the Walk bourbon? Well, if you listen to the podcast, you know there are 3 verdict options. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to collect it? Or are we going to cull it? To keep it means to proudly display it in your liquor cabinet or bar. This stuff's good for a pour anytime, but there's really no need to stock up on it since it's always available. Collect it. Grab another bottle or maybe 2 since you find it so darn delicious, or it just may not be easy to get your hands on. And lastly, cull it. Use it to loosen rusty bolts or sanitize a dirty toilet. In the case of Cock of the Walk bourbon whiskey, coming in at 112.1 proof, I say, keep it. Yeah, this bourbon has got so much going on in a good way. Like I said, it's not complicated, it's complex, and that's a good thing. You get everything from smoky caramel to vanilla to this terrific spicy oakiness. I even got a tinge of tobacco and a little bit of mint on that finish. And look, I know it's not a one-for-one comparison, all right? But I've had Pappy 12-year Lot B a few times over the years. And something about this pour brought that memory back to me. Now, keep in mind, Cock of the Walk is 112.1 proof, but it drinks more like 100 to me. And Pappy 12, I think it sits right around 90 proof if my memory serves. Yo, I'm not saying this is Pappy 12. It's not. But I get some of the same vibes here. Same kind of flavor depth, same easy balance. And honestly, this Lot 2 of Cock of the Walk might even have a little more richness than the Pappy I tasted. And hey, don't come at me, bro. This is just my opinion, remember? Look, I'm not being dramatic or trying to stir the pot here, guys. It's just what I'm getting here. Now, think about it this way. You ever have a meal somewhere and it reminds you of another one you had maybe years ago, like a good steak dinner somewhere? They're not the same, but they share that same quality that sticks with you. It's the vibe, really. That's what the cool kids say, right? The vibe. And that's kind of what this is like to me. Is this the best wheated bourbon in America? Well, it might be, but I can't say for sure, guys. I've got to be honest here on the podcast when I say I haven't tasted enough wheated bourbons to make that call. And truthfully, my ascot, it's still at the dry cleaners right now. So there's that. But what I can tell you Guys, this is a treat yourself to something special type of bottle. Like, hey, honey, you know my birthday's coming up real soon, right? Or you're going to go through the couch cushions and get out all the change and head to the Coinstar machine. It's worth the effort. It's worth the work, guys. It is expensive, right? Yeah, it is absolutely expensive. Is it unique, though? Yes. And best of all, it's a fantastic luxury pour of bourbon. Look, you can pick up any old Booker's for about the same price, right? Or you can pick up something from the Bardstown Bourbon Collection. They might be great. In fact, many of them are great, right? But they're a dime a dozen. If you want something unique, truly handcrafted, then this Cock of the Walk should be on your shelf. Look, pull this bad boy out, show it off to your buddies, and impress them with a pour that most likely it'll be one of the best pours they've never, ever heard of. My takeaway today? This is some terrific bourbon. And of course it is, right? I mean, look at the team at Preservation. This is the vibe I got off of Kyle, right? And I think Kyle will tell you, they'll all tell you there, picking up a bottle of Cock of the Walk isn't just about the bourbon. It's about the story behind it. It's the story of a tight-knit group out of Bardstown, Kentucky, led by a founder who knows her stuff clearly. And ultimately, it comes down to folks who still believe the best whiskey can't be rushed. I want to thank Mr. Kyle Lloyd, Vice President at Preservation Distillery, for his time. I know he's a busy guy. I cannot wait to connect with him next time I'm in Kentucky. Guys, I look forward to seeing exactly in person what they have going on at Preservation Distillery. Last but not least, I got to give a shout out to the farmers, the distillery production guys and gals, the warehouse workers, the bottlers, and the truck drivers, guys. They are the ones that make it happen. So cheers to all of them. Well, that's all I got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the socials. Make sure you go over to Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Make sure you do it on all of those platforms. iHeart, all of it. We're everywhere. We're on Amazon. When you like and subscribe, that boosts the visibility for this podcast and gets the word out. I really appreciate it. We're in 50 states and umpteen countries across the entire world. We're growing, we're getting bigger, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thanks for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast, guys. Your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. And I'm going to have some more of this Cock of the Walk.